Hot Business is powered by Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking.
Now, South Africa's art market is booming, and that is good news, but so are the risks. There have been a spate of high-value thefts. They really are on the rise, from a 1 million rand sculpture heist in Pringle Bay in the Western Cape to something like 35 paintings stolen off the N1. At the same time, many collections remain dangerously underinsured, with standard policies excluding transit, exhibition or installation losses. I want to explore this in a little more detail. I'm in conversation now with Gail Bosch, product head at I2 Art Insure, and let's discuss how collectors and institutions are potentially leaving themselves exposed. Gail, a very warm welcome to you. This is not a topic that I have discussed before on the program. Why is art suddenly such a hot target for crime syndicates?
So what we're seeing is that criminals are growing more aware of the values of art. Where previously we were seeing, more fast-moving consumer goods being the target. It has been an increase in terms of art theft, not necessarily only art. When we're talking art, it's collectibles, it's sculptures, private jewelry, that sort of thing. The trouble that these artists or these criminals have is that they don't necessarily have the market after the theft. So that gives us an opportunity for recovery.
Do we have any indication as to who the syndicates are? I'm assuming that they would be well informed and, as we potentially discuss a bit later, also becoming a lot more brazen in the way in which they are perpetuating the crime or stealing the works.
We have our suspicions, but obviously, it would need to be confirmed. But it also depends on the types of works that are being stolen. I mean, you would imagine that it would be more the Chinese syndicates that are after the Chinese, ceramics that are very valuable floating around in the industry. So it does depend on the type of works and the demand. That would be, I suppose, a targeted theft as opposed to an opportunistic one.
And Gail, tell me, the Pringle Bay and the N1 heists, if I recall, they were fairly audacious. It also tells us something about how art theft itself is evolving, doesn't it?
It does, because I think people have the impression that if they've got a very, very heavy bronze sculpture out in the garden, that there's no way that anybody could take it because it's too heavy, so therefore no theft risk. This recent theft in August has just proven that that's absolutely false. And if it's well planned, which it does look like this was very well planned, to take 6 or 7 large sculptures out of a sculpture garden at night with nobody knowing, those are heavy and it's going to take a lot of planning.
So that's the very disturbing background. Now let's talk a little bit about the insurance if we can. How big is the gap between the value of collections and actual cover in place? I'm assuming that we wouldn't be having this conversation unless there is an issue around deficit.
There is. So the challenge is that these works are appreciating assets and, as they should be and as we're hoping that they're going to be. So we will often have institutes or collectors that have got very outdated valuations, which would mean that they're very likely not insured up to the full sum insured. The other aspect that collectors and institutions need to look out for is that they're insured in the right way. We should be insuring artworks and appreciating assets at an agreed value and not at a replacement value, because you can't get 3 replacement quotes for an item that's one of a kind and irreplaceable. So it has to be insured at an agreed value, and to ensure recent valuations to make sure that that agreed value is reflecting the current value of the work.
And how do you determine the agreed value?
We work with a panel of independent valuers. So they would be looking at the market, at previous sales, supply and demand, and they will peg a snapshot in time of what the market value is, based on experience. We will then agree that value with the client at a snapshot. And I mean, it could go up, it could go down. But for the purposes of the policy, we're pegging it at that point that is the value that we're going to insure it at. And if there's a loss, that is exactly what gets paid out. There's no, discussion or negotiation after a loss.
What about standard household or business policies? Would they fail to protect serious questions? You can't just lump it on the list there, can you?
That is actually what our biggest challenge, I suppose, is educating art collectors regarding insurance, and that your contents policy, that insuring it for replacement value, as I mentioned before, might not be sufficient. Also, a lot of the times your transits, to and from exhibitions, to events, to framers, to, auctioneers wouldn't necessarily be covered under the, standard contents policies. Also doesn't allow for specific covers such as defective title if you've inadvertently purchased a stolen work, or for fakes and forgeries. There are a lot of very specialized covers that need to be considered when you're thinking about insuring these artworks.
Let me pick you up on that one point. You say transit and exhibition seems to be particularly vulnerable, if I was hearing you correctly. What's being overlooked there?
It's the specialized insurance, the specialized packing, specialized transit, making sure that you're using the right transit company, that it's been packaged correctly, and also that the cover is at agreed value. I think a lot of it goes back to that. A lot of the transport companies will insure works based on the weight and the dimensions, which doesn't necessarily take into account the true intrinsic value of the work that you're moving.
And tell me, Gail, how easy or difficult is recovery once a work is stolen? What's the realistic chance of getting it back?
I think it depends on the type of theft. So at i2 Art Insure, we've identified that there's 3 different types of theft. We've got the targeted theft, which you imagine, some criminal sitting in their dark room that's placed an order for a particular work to be purchased for their enjoyment. Those works will sometimes come up in future generations when their descendants try to sell the artworks, and they'll come back into the market. Rare, but it does happen. Then opportunistic is where we have our best chance, because that is where works have been stolen, but there's no plan or end game for where they're going to be where they're going to be sold. So there we have a fantastic network of investigators and what we call our bulldogs, who have managed to successfully trace stolen works in the industry of people trying to sell stolen works. The recyclable material ones is for me the most sad, and I'm really hoping this Pringle Bay one is not the case, is when works are stolen for the value of the material that it's made out. So bronzes and copper would be melted down to their base metals. That for me is the most sad, because they're never going to be recovered.
Gail, I'm fascinated by the bulldogs. Who exactly are they, and how difficult is the job they do?
We have a panel, and I wouldn't be comfortable disclosing all the details.
Of course.
But, underground networks. We also feed into Interpol's database for their watch list. And our art theft register that we maintain on our website feeds into London's art loss register. So we've got quite a wide network of people that can talk to each other. The art theft register that we host, I encourage anybody who's had a work stolen to please send the details through to us with the police case number, because secondary market auctioneers will check against our art theft register to make sure that they're not inadvertently selling a stolen work. So it's important that it's very clearly put out there that the work is stolen, so it can be identified when somebody attempts to sell it.
How difficult is it for insurers such as yourself to keep pace with the sophistication of these thefts?
It's an ongoing. As soon as we've improved our processes and our details, then the criminals get, wiser, and then we improve. So I think it's going to be an ongoing process, as with many cases of crime.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Gail Bosch, product head at i2 Art Insure. Thank you very much for talking to me today.
Heart Business is powered by Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, delivering expert support and tailored solutions to help your business grow with confidence, clarity, and resilience.